So, I want to make this a quick one today. I was just thinking about one of the first things I got diagnosed with, which was seasonal affective disorder. And I was put on Lexapro for that. This is probably around 2002, 2003, whenever Lexapro came out. Now, if you notice, I got night drivers on. I always wear these when I'm at the computer. And if you look in the back of the room, in the corner right back there, those are UVB 10 bulbs. So they have UVA and UVB. And that's been life-changing for me in the winter. So I keep my boxers on and I put UV protective goggles on. But otherwise, I get bare skin exposure for about 15 to 20 minutes a day. Those UVB and UVA lights. Now, those are made for reptiles. And again, I'm going to try to keep this concise, right? Why do we know for, like, reptiles that they need sunlight? You want to keep a pet lizard, you're going to have to do your research. What species is it? What are its needs for UVB and UVA light exposure? These lights are made to replicate like the desert sun. Now, all this research into animals and pets and all this stuff, and people will obsessively research, like, what kind of diet should my pet have? Well, I mean, again, if you have exotic pets, you need to do a lot of research for their specific needs. And to keep this concise, why was I put on, right, Lexapro, and I got a whole bunch of problems from that, for seasonal affective disorder. Now, I've had the best winter of my life using these bulbs. I never knew about this until recently, and I've been obsessively researching health and nutrition for well over 20 years, independently. I read about this stuff constantly, and I'm always trying new things and applying new things. Now, again, think of the pet lizard, right? We got an exotic pet. We got to make sure we do our research, or this is going to be tantamount to animal abuse if we don't do our research. Like, I don't want to own this pet until I can be sure that I'm going to be meeting its biological needs, according to the species. And so, isn't that funny? For human beings, we don't have that. We're in the society that is, in my opinion, completely antithetical to human biology. It's basically, our society is structured in such a way that is in complete disrespect of our biological needs as humans. We'll have pets, and we will research the crap out of how to take care of them, and what do they need, and their specific special needs for these specific special exotic pets, or even normal pets. People will get super obsessive, and I'm not faulting them. I think that's great. I think that is great to have compassion for, your pet that you have, and you want to love it and take care of it and get it the best food, get it in the best routine, you want to maximize its lifespan and its quality of life. I think that's a sign of love and compassion, and that's a wonderful thing. The thing that's not wonderful is we don't do that for ourselves in this society. And also, I won't get into a whole rant about corporations and the complete disregard for human biology, and, people being basically forced into living in ways that are antithetical with their biological needs. And I could go on and on and on and on about this. I wrote down some bullet points here. Light and circadian rhythm, minerals, vitamins, macronutrients, microbiome, and toxicities and deficiencies. I could talk at length about each of these points. I'd probably talk at length about all of them. However, I want to keep this about light and circadian rhythm because it's such a good example, right? And again, these lights in the corner of the room, my night drivers I have, for these high amounts of blue light from computer monitors and phones. Yes, I know about screen filters. I have f.lux and all that stuff. I don't personally think it's enough. And also, I think this is a trade-off where you can keep the screens at full blue light brightness, and then I just prefer to do that and use the glasses until it gets later in the evening. Whereupon I switch to, these, and then I have my Twilight Classics that I switch to after that. Anyway, right, because I've been doing a lot of circadian training lately, and this has been a huge breakthrough for me personally, but it's just funny, circling all the way back to the beginning of my psychiatric health experience. And one of the first things I was diagnosed with, and it wasn't the only thing, but one of the first, was seasonal affective disorder. And I'm just thinking, man, okay, I get on Lexapro. Shortly thereafter, I start cutting myself compulsively. I didn't even know what I was doing. I didn't know that was a thing people did. I started reading about it later. But I think that's interesting that I was not influenced by anyone and I just started doing it, which would imply that it was the drug that triggered some kind of, something. And I also started thinking about deleting myself all the time. And then I was put on Zyprexa. So now I'm on Lexapro and Zyprexa. And keep in mind, I was probably around 14 years old at this time, 13, 14. And got a whole bunch of problems from that. And funnily enough, the Zyprexa even ties into this because I started having really bad insomnia. So first it was seasonal affective disorder, but then I had insomnia, and it's like, okay, well, you're depressed. Let's put you on an SSRI. Oh, now you can't sleep. Let's put you on Zyprexa, olanzapine, extremely potent antipsychotic. I started getting a pot belly. Here I'm like 15 years old, and I also had a tumor on my ear. Personally, I think that was related, and I had to have that surgically removed. Like after I was on this Zyprexa for a while, I got a pretty large tumor growing on my ear that I had to have surgically removed. In addition to all this weight gain and that I'd never had before. So anyway, but isn't that interesting, right? Seasonal affective disorder. Oh, SSRI. Oh, you can't sleep. Oh, you got insomnia. Okay, Zyprexa. Well, isn't it interesting that seasonal affective disorder, I say disorder with quotey fingers because how is it a disorder when it's like, well, no, maybe it's a perfectly natural response of the body to a lack of sunlight. It's like if you live in an area of the world where the sun just disappears for 6 months, and then also think about it like this. If you're in school, if you have a job, you're going to be under fluorescent lighting all day, or in today's world, LEDs. Back when I was growing up, it was fluorescent bulbs, now it's LEDs. And you're under artificial lighting all day. So just imagine the disrespect for human biology, right? To throw medication at what I think is a perfectly natural response to a lack of proper light exposure. And then throw in the phones and the screens. I mean, it's worse today than ever. I mean, we didn't have phones when I was growing up. That wasn't a thing. I had cathode ray tube televisions. I'd play video games, I'd watch TV. But we didn't have phones. And we didn't have these super bright LEDs, and I'm not saying it affects everyone equal. I think it does affect everyone. But some people are going to be more sensitive, and maybe it's the people that fall into the system might be the ones more severely affected. The ones who think they're totally fine. I mean, there's a great book on blue light and, circadian rhythm and cancer, and you could end up getting really sick years later and never connect the dots. And it's like, well, maybe decades of disrespecting your biology, which is not your fault, by the way. Personally, I look to like the APA, the AMA, or whatever country you're in. These governing bodies, the people that aren't charged with public health and everything, that's on them. That's their responsibility. They're supposed to be the stewards of human health and, creating a society that is respectful of human biology, which to my knowledge, nobody has ever done. There's nobody in power. I mean, I'm sure there's people attempting to do things on small scales, but I mean, no large governing body is doing anything. Again, if you look in history, people have been made aware of things. If you look in the southern United States, and pellagra, that was a huge outbreak. I can't remember if it was like the late 1800s, early 1900s, some era around there, right? There was a huge outbreak of pellagra, which is a deficiency of niacin, or vitamin B3. And that was from eating corn that was not nixtamalized, having it as a major dietary staple. And now we know that nixtamalization of corn, which involves cooking it in like wood ash or calcium hydroxide, also known as lime. But the super alkaline substance, it slakes the skins off and it nixtamalizes the corn, which makes the niacin bioavailable, makes it more digestible. Anyway, this is how some of these policies have come into play. If you ever look at white flour products in the United States, and it says enriched white flour, enriched with, and it has like iron and niacinamide. Usually they say niacin, but it's niacinamide or nicotinamide, but it's a form of vitamin B3. And then they'll have thiamine, mononitrate, or some other stuff. But basically, governing bodies have been made aware of this. This is also how in Japan they developed benfotiamine, which is a fat-soluble form of B1. Thiamine deficiency. Thiamine is B1. Beriberi, they had an outbreak in Japan. Beriberi is like the pellagra of Japan. Think of it like that. In America, southern United States, we had pellagra from vitamin B3 deficiency from eating corn as a dietary staple that was not processed correctly, which means nixtamalizing it. It's like, yes, you can have a little corn, you're not going to die. But if it's a major dietary staple, yeah, you might want to nixtamalize it. Go looking like Mexico. Tortillas and all this other stuff, right? It's all made with nixtamalized corn. It changes the properties so you can make it into a dough, masa harina. That's nixtamalized corn. But anyway, you go to flash over to Japan. You have brown rice, and all of a sudden, back in like feudal Japan, people were getting like 1,300 calories a day from brown rice. It was a major dietary staple. They start polishing it. You take the bran off, and now you basically have just a refined starch with no nutrients in it. And beriberi becomes this like pandemic, right? This major outbreak in Japan. Why? Because you're polishing the rice, you're taking out the bran, and now you've got like this clinical nutritional deficiency, beriberi, or B1 deficiency, which also led to them developing fat-soluble B1. I don't know if they also developed sulbutamine, which is a form of B1 that crosses the blood-brain barrier, but anyway, long story short, I just mentioned that because I'm like, oh, nobody's doing anything. It's like, well, clearly governing bodies are aware of some of these things, right? We wouldn't have enriched flour. Now, I personally don't think it's a good idea. I avoid that stuff. I avoid it personally. They use folic acid. I mean, all the suboptimal forms of vitamins, but then also I just don't think it's good. And then you talk about iron overload, especially in men, because we don't menstruate. Iron overload is a huge problem in a lot of men that they don't know about it. One good reason to donate blood. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, light exposure, right? Circadian rhythm. But I'm almost at 12 minutes here, so I'm going to try to wrap this up. It's not complicated. It's like you're throwing drugs at this stuff. To me, it's the height of irony. It's like, okay, put you on this drug. Now you're cutting yourself. Now you're thinking about deleting yourself. Now you're on this potent antipsychotic. That's Lexapro. Now we're going to put you on Zyprexa. Now you're like a zombie. I almost failed out of high school, and I virtually did fail out of college. It was like impossible for me to function. It just turned me into a zombie. And who knows what kind of damage that did to my developing brain. Maybe part of the reason I'm so scatterbrained and all over the place is the fact that I was on Lexapro and Zyprexa from all of my formative years, in puberty. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe that had something with almost failing out of high school and then virtually failing. I failed 4 out of 5 classes in college and was put on probation, and then I just dropped out. It felt impossible. I was like, I can't do this, Anyway, the zombifying drugs and all that, and who would have thought? It's like, well, imagine how much less money somebody's going to make. Those lights were like $70 each on Amazon. I think these were $12 or maybe $15 on Amazon. Now, again, Amazon didn't exist back then, but it's like you had Walmart. I'm not going to get into a whole political discussion about all that stuff. And corporations and small businesses and then these, conglomerates wiping people out. All that stuff aside, there's a lot less money to be made from fucking sunglasses and then a couple reptile bulbs that you would get for your pet lizard, So, and I will say even these sad lights, I don't use those anymore. I don't think they're bad. I mean, but I certainly didn't help me that much. They did a bit. I had mixed results with them, but like these, and I cover my eyes up. This is with goggles on and I have my boxers on. But that's skin exposure, and I have found my circadian rhythm to be dramatically way more impacted by those lights than I ever found from the sad lights. Actually, when I was working a retail warehouse job, I had to get up at 5 in the morning, and I remember I would have this little sad light, this 10,000 whatever lux or whatever the thing was to emulate sunlight, and I would have it right in my face, and I would fucking fall asleep with that thing shining in my face. I'd be so tired when I woke up. Because here in the winter, it's like you get up at 5, it is pitch black. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, it is pitch black. 6:30 in the morning, pitch black. It's like maybe starts to get a little bit of sunlight, in the winter here, like 7 in the morning. But anyway, you go into work, and it's like, oh, gee, I wonder why I'm depressed. It's like I'm waking up when it's pitch black outside, going into a warehouse where there's like fluorescent lighting, there's no sunlight at all, and then you spend all day in there. Now, I would go home fairly early, But not every day. Most days I would. But other days it's like, again, some days if I had worked overtime, you'd be getting home and it's like dark outside. It's like it's dark when you wake up, you're under fluorescent lights all day, and then it's dark when you go home. Now that was rare for me, but even just being deprived of light in the morning, like some days, if I'm doing part-time, I get home at like noon to like 2 p.m. But it's like, okay, well, I've gone from 5 a.m. to noon or 2 p.m. without any sunlight exposure at all. What do you think that's going to do to your circadian rhythm? For reference, with those lights over there, I do it midday. The timing of it's very important. But anyway, just the insanity of it, it just kind of occurred to me today that it's like, wow, seasonal affective disorder. Ugh. Oh, bro, your brain's got a problem, bro. You got to get this medication. You got a chemical imbalance. Gee, really? Yeah, it is a chemical imbalance from a lack of sunlight exposure, which you're naturally supposed to get. It's not a disorder. Your brain's responding perfectly to a complete lack of sunlight. Now compound that with like school, work, all these environments where, funnily enough, there's no sun. You're under artificial lighting all day, and it's not even good artificial lighting. Anyway, if I keep talking about this, I'm just going to trail off more and more. I'm going to go finish up my coffee here and get my day started. But yeah, isn't that nuts? Isn't that nuts? How much money could they make? And again, these are, protecting me from blue light. I just like having them on, too. I like the way they look. But blue light from computer screens and phones, which today is more of a problem than ever. After wearing these for a long time, too, even LED lighting in stores, it's like I find I am not really comfortable not wearing these. It's like you don't realize how bright it is until you take these off, and it's like, oh man. Oh, that's awful. Like, I'm just here, my computer's at full blast, and I got this ring light for filming myself, and it's like, no thanks. This is much better, But anyway, how much money are you going to make? Imagine you go to see a doctor. I'm really depressed. I'm having insomnia. I can't sleep. And not from PSSD or some other drug damage, but I'm talking about before that happens. Like, you're coming in as a normal person who's never been on any drugs. Man, I can't, If I was working with someone, if I was a doctor, I'd be like, look, we got to get your circadian rhythm dialed in. What's your diet like? Like, when is your last meal? Because your timing of your meals comes into play a lot with your circadian rhythm as well. So, but I would be like, okay, we're going to explore some options for cheap sunglasses. I do have an expensive pair. I got the expensive Dave Asprey ones, the Twilight Classics. They do work. I got a cheaper pair on Amazon. They do not work as well. But, I have these on during the day. People would think I'm nuts. People would think I'm nuts, right? But why would you think I'm nuts? We're living in an extremely unnatural environment. Why would you wear sunglasses? You cavemen didn't wear sunglasses. I didn't wear sunglasses. Why would you do that? It's like, yeah, well, why would I wear sunglasses? Look at what I'm fucking sitting in front of. What is natural about this? I don't know if you've noticed, but there's no fucking dinosaurs walking around. Like, hello? Yeah, why would you wear sunglasses? That's so stupid. You're cringe. This is so dumb. It's like, yeah. I don't know if you fucking notice we're not surrounded by saber-toothed tigers and fucking dinosaurs. I don't see fucking Fred Flintstone. Oh, hey, maybe I should go to my neighbor's house and go check and see if Barney and Fred are living there. I don't fucking think so, okay? Like, in case you haven't noticed, we're living in an extremely unnatural world. So, yeah, I'm going to wear sunglasses. It's like, okay, yeah, artificial light. You shouldn't have to do this. This is unnatural. It's like, yeah, again, if you didn't notice, yeah, we're not exactly living in a natural environment. We're actually living in an environment that is antithetical to human biology. So you're going to have to take some measures to deal with that. If you care about your health, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything, And, I'm not going to hold that over anybody's head. I'm not going to judge anybody. Unless they're, I'm doing it as a reciprocity, right? The people that are like, why would you do this? Because they're trying to censor me. It's like, I'm not telling you that you have to do anything, but people that are going to be like, why are you wearing sunglasses? That's so dumb. Why don't you have to do this? That's so stupid. You don't have to do anything. But don't say I'm the weird one for making adaptations to live in an unnatural society. Again, circling back to the lizard. why would they need a light? That's so unnatural. It's like, no, we know it's natural. Or it's an approximation of what's natural, because they're supposed to be in the fucking desert getting sunlight. You know, so if you go take them out into like a region of the world that has no sun 6 months out of the year, and you're keeping the thing inside, the sunlight's not going to be enough. Yeah, you have to get a light, because it's an unnatural environment. So you have to do unnatural things, such as using artificial lights, to compensate for that. So anyway, but again, it's fine for lizards. It's fine. I guess we just prioritize. And again, I don't think it's wrong to prioritize animals. I think animals are great. You know, I can get on that topic later. You know, as far as diet and all this other stuff, I've been eating much less meat lately and feeling a lot better for it. I've been having discussions with one of my friends about that. But anyway, it's great to love animals and have compassion for them, but it's like, why not for humans? And start with you. Start with you. You know? Start with you. Start with yourself. That's what I've been doing. I've been focusing on myself. I'm like, everyone else can do whatever they want. That's fine. My goal lately has been to focus on me after a lifetime of neglecting myself, which also includes trusting professionals with my health that don't give a shit about me, right? That's like a form of self-disrespect and self-abandonment. So it's like, no, have compassion and love for yourself. Start there. You know, so that being said, I'm getting a little hungry. Which also I could talk about fasting in another video. I've done a ton of fasting and gotten benefits from that. Hunger is not a bad thing when it's controlled voluntarily. But anyway, you know, speaking of self-love and compassion, you know, I could keep recording for ages. But I got to get started with my day here. So that's another thing too. I'm not going to worry about editing this. I'm not going to worry about this. I have something to say. I said it. Just publish it and be done. Be done with it. Who cares? Warts and all. It's not like I have a mega YouTube channel anyway, you know. So it's like for the like 1 or 2 people watching this. Hopefully it gives you some talking points, because one thing I want to start propagating is some simple things, you know, like the lizard thing. It's like, oh, well, wouldn't you get a lizard a sun lamp? It biologically needs it. Doesn't that make sense? So why wouldn't humans have biological needs that need unnatural adaptations in an unnatural environment? You know, so one of the things I want to propagate is people having cute little points like that to make when they're arguing with people. Because most people have very short attention spans. They're not going to listen to anything. So getting a good one-liner, you know, a little parable, a little metaphor, a little anecdote, like again, the lizard needing a sun lamp. You know, you'd be very brief and very concise, unlike what I'm doing here. And it can reach more people. You know, a sharp, pointed little statement. You know, kind of cuts through, and it's like, wow, I never thought about that before. You know, wow, lizards, yeah, they do need sunlight. Yeah, we take them out of the desert where they've evolved to be around tons of sun, and then we put them in a little box with no light. Yeah, we should get a light that is like the sun. Wow. I know, I'm being a fucking asshole right now. I'm sorry. I think it's funny. You know, it was like the Fred Flintstone thing. I don't see fucking Fred Flintstone as my fucking neighbor over here. Well, I don't. I really don't, though. Seriously. You know, talk about natural. Oh, it's unnatural to wear sunglasses. It's like, okay, well, next time you roll up into my driveway with bare feet, you know, I want to see your car has like a little, you know, dinosaur skin canopy over the top. And then, you know, the wheels have to be made out of stones. And I want to see you paddling your little feet on the asphalt. You know, then I'll be like, okay, maybe it is unnatural that I'm wearing sunglasses all day indoors. But until you roll up in Fred Flintstone's car, I'm going to keep wearing these. So anyway, all right, that's all I got for now. Until next time.